So I didn't cover this passage of our God feeds theme in the volume one of this series for coffee because I thought it might be a little cliche. But having heard Cheryl's sermon, Deacon Cheryl's sermon about God being in the midst of it with us, so to speak, that God I really wanted to connect with this God feeding us theme that we treasure so much. I hope it could be a lifeline to you again in the midst of 2020. We got to go to Exodus 16. We got to do it. It's a classic. It's a classic God feeding, right? And it fits this theme so perfectly. I know it might be a little cliche, but it's so good I have to go there. So Exodus chapter 16. This is the bread from heaven. So, this is the passage where the people are wandering the wilderness. They're lost. They're cranky. I mean, who's not when they haven't been fed, right? I know I am. They're having regrets. Maybe we should have stayed in Egypt. And this whole God thing was overblown. Did I really see what I thought I saw? Or witness what I thought I witnessed? Having, doubts. They're like I said, they're just really upset. Cabin fever, but a wilderness version. I don't know. Wilderness fever, is that a thing? But they're ready to be done with it. I don't know. Again, maybe this can relate to how we're feeling about 2020. I don't know about you. I'm ready to be done with COVID. I don't need 40 years in the wilderness. And so the people are cranky. And they're hungry. Kind of like the Snickers ads, right? They're really cranky and then they eat a Snickers and they're all better. That's kind of what happens here in Exodus 16. The people are cranky. They're getting mad. They're talking to Moses. Oh, we're not getting any food. This is my favorite. If only we had, verse 3, if only we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots and ate our fill of bread. For you have brought us into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Oh, it was so much better in the good old days. When we had flesh pots, even though we were enslaved, it's not important. For selective memory, how great it was then. Let's see. They're in the midst of being delivered. They have been brought out from Egypt. The Exodus, cleverly named books, right? The Exodus has occurred, but they have not arrived to the promised land yet. They've not been seen through. The promised land that God promised. Again, very cleverly named, right? The land God promised them. And so they're in the midst of being delivered. See, I think so often, especially in our modern times, we see delivery as pretty quick. If the Grubhub takes more than 20 minutes to get here, it's like, oh my goodness, what went wrong? My Amazon package, it took 3 days. And I don't even have Prime. Like, oh my goodness, it's like a catastrophe. It's a week, right? The deliverance isn't always overnight. And so here, we sit in the middle of COVID, in the wilderness of COVID, if you will. Ah, man, it was the good old days before COVID. And there are things we miss about COVID, don't get me wrong, but perhaps we're not remembering those days as well as we think we are. And don't get me wrong, the people in the story are hungry, but to want to die? That's a little dramatic. I hope we're not there yet, by the way. If you are, please talk to me. But I think that the story is helpful in that even in the midst of the people complaining about God delivering them, remembering the brutal enslavement by the hand of the Egyptians as better than what God's got planned. Pretty insulting, but they're forgetting that God delivers, right? I mean, these people have seen 10 plagues. They've seen the waters separated, pillars of fire, and yet they're still like, I don't know. And surely we've seen signs too, maybe not that dramatic, but we've seen signs. We've felt God's presence. So remember them. Furthermore, in the story, despite them seeing all this and they're still doubting and complaining and cranky, God still feeds them. God knows they need that Snickers bar, in this case manna. Give them the snack. They'll calm down. God's feeding us now in COVID. I've heard that some of you are fed by these videos, and that makes me very happy. Very happy. But if you're looking for other things, it's out there. I like to think what we have at Living Waters is feeding you, but make sure to find your outlets. Make sure to take time for yourself to make sure that you're nourishing your heart, your mind, your soul, your body with what God has provided for you. Because God is providing. And maybe instead of looking back at the good old days and languishing away, focus on being fed right now. Because to God's deliverance will happen. It just might not be right away. But it will happen. Have a good day.